Page 14. This has 0 solutions because they have the same slopes but different y-intercepts. Step 1 is to turn each equation into slope-intercept form. This will give us 3y equals negative 2x plus 4. For the other equation, it will give us 6y equals negative 8 plus 4x. Step 2 is to divide both equations by what is in front of y to get y alone. This will give us y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 4 over 3. And for the other equation, it will give us y equals negative 8 over 6x plus 4 over 6. And there's only one solution because the equations both have different slopes. Page 11. Step 1 is to find a common multiple for both equations. This will give us 3x minus 1y equals 4, and for the next equation, timesing everything by 6 will give us 5x plus 3y equals 9. For both equations, make sure that one variable is the same number with one positive and one negative. Step 3 is to add the equations together, but to get to 3y for both, we have to times the first equation by 3 again. So this will give us 5x plus 3y equals 9, and 9x minus 3y equals 12. After that, we add our x's together, which will give us 14x equals 21 because you add the either side 2. Then you divide both sides by 14 to get x alone, which will give us x equals 3 over 2. Part 2 for this question is to find y. So step 1 is you're going to plug into the first equation what you got for x, which is 3 over 2. And once you have that, you're going to find a common denominator, which in this case is 6. And then after that, you're going to subtract 9 over 6 from both sides. And then divide both sides by 2 over 6, which will give you 12 over negative 6. And y will end up equaling 12 over negative 6. So your solution will be 3 over 2 and 12 over negative 6. Step 1 is to make one variable the same number with one positive and one negative. I chose to do x, so I'm making x both 14. The top one times it by negative 2, and the bottom one times it by 7. Next, you're going to add the y's together and the intercepts because x's cancel each other out, and this will equal 75y equals negative 75. Next, divide both sides by 75, which will give you y equals negative 1. The next step is to plug that into the other equation. And after that, multiply it out, which will be 7x equals negative 6 plus 27. And that will give you 7x equals 21. And then you're going to divide both sides by 7, which will give you x, and x equals 3. Step 1 is to make two equations, which is c plus f equals 25 and f equals negative 1c plus 25. Step 2 is to plug in the numbers, which will give us 7 over 9c plus 3 over 7f equals 17. Step 3 is to find a common denominator. So for this, I use 63. And step 4 is to multiply everything by 63, which will give us 49c plus 27f equals 1071. After that, you're going to plug in minus 1c plus 25, which will give you 49c plus 27. After that, we're going to do 49c minus 27c plus 675 equals 1071. After that, you're going to combine the two alike terms, which equals 22c equals 396. After this, you're going to divide both sides by 22, which will give you C equals 18. So there are 18 Canadian players and 7 foreigners on this team. Step 1 is to find a common denominator to get rid of fractions. So I times the first equation by 12 and the second equation by 6, which gives us 3m equals 30 plus 4n. And for the second one, 3m plus 4n equals 6. Step 2 is to substitute the 3m in the first equation into the second one, which will give you 30 plus 4n equals 6. Step 3 is to combine the like terms, which will give you 30 plus 8n equals 6. Step 4 is to move 30 over to the other side, which will give you 8n equals 6 minus 30. Step 5 is to divide both sides by 8 to get n alone, and n equals -3. Step 6 is to plug in n into the first equation to find m, to give you 3m equals 30 plus 4 times -3. Step 7 is to multiply out the bracket, which will be 3m equals 30 minus 12, which will give you 3m equals 18, and then you're going to divide both sides by 3, which will give you m equals 6. So the solution will be -3 and 6. Step 1 is to move -2x over to the other side. Step 2 is now substitute that in, which will give us 2x equals 6, and in brackets 2x minus 4 plus 9. Next you're going to multiply that out, which will give us 2x equals 12x minus 24 plus 9. Then you're going to combine the x's once they're on the same side, and combine the other side as well. This will give us -10x equals -15. Then you're going to divide both sides by 10 to get x alone, which will give you -1.5. Next, you're going to plug that in the other equation, which will be y equals 2 times -1.5 minus 4. This will give you y equals -3 minus 4, which will give you y equals 7. So your solution is -1.5 and 7. Page 4, word problem. Step 1 for this word problem is to make equations, which are c equals 100 plus 5v and c equals 10v. Step 2 is to graph the equations. So for c equals 10v, we're going to go up by 10 each visit. Then we are going to do the next equation, which is c equals 100 plus 5v, which is the starter fee of 100 plus $5 per time going to the gym. So after 9 visits, plan B is a better option because you are spending less money. So the first part of this question is to turn both equations into slope-intercept form. And by doing that, we move the -3x over, which gives us y equals +3x plus 5. And we do the same for the other question, which will give us 3y equals -x minus 5. But to get y alone, we divide both sides by 3, which will give us y equals -1/3x minus 5/3. So how we graph this question is we start with the y-intercept, which is 5, and then we go up 3 and over 1, which is rise over run, which is our slope. So now for this equation, our y-intercept is -5/3. So we start at -5 and then move over 3, and then we plot our points with the slope -1/3. After this, we will connect the line and add arrows at the end as well as the other one and write the equation over top. Next, to find the solution, we find out where both the points cross. So for x, it would be around -2, and for y, it would be around -3, and x always goes before y in solution. So just like the last question, we are going to turn these into slope-intercept form, but since the first one already is, we're just going to divide it by 3, which will give us y equals -1 over 3x plus 1. For the next one, we are going to move the x over, which will give us 4y minus x minus 12, and then we're going to divide both sides by 4, which gives us y equals -1 over 4, x minus 3. So now that I've graphed these equations, it looks like that there is no solution to this problem. So we're just going to write our equations beside the lines, and that is the end of the question.